It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by AgileDad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. Someone recently pointed me in the direction of an article, and I sort of thought it was tongue-in-cheek at first. It had to do with, in Scrum, change is always welcome. Now, I took a minute to read through this, but I thought it'd be good to read through it with you because this is interesting. So here we go. It says for many newspapers, the rise of the internet has stopped press releases or stopped the presses permanently. Droves of readers have left their Gazette subscriptions for web search engines, mobile applications, and social media accounts. But some newspapers have managed to adapt rather than die. They have supplemented print publications with online versions, generated engagement through social media, and tasked software developers with creating and managing mobile applications. Sure, newspapers that have weathered the digital age have responded to the internet, but above all, they responded to change. Let's pause for a second. I feel like change is inevitable. Change is going to continue to happen, and the biggest changes are the changes we haven't even seen yet. Artificial intelligence, AI, is going to introduce so many changes. And I think it's going to revolutionize the way we learn, the way we teach, the way that we go about obtaining materials that are high quality, the books we read. I mean, I think every single thing from the entertainment industry to you name it, it's going to all be changed and revolutionized by AI. So while I've seen many of the media companies, I mean, look at AOL, for example, America Online. Who would have ever thought that they would become a news agency, but they did. And it's just really, really interesting to see how organizations have transitioned and how they've positioned or pivoted themselves to be successful. So part of this is right on target. Change is inevitable. But the other part, I just don't know that the newspaper is a strong example. All right, let's continue. Every project, regardless of its method or framework used, is exposed to change. In today's hyper-competitive world where technology, market conditions, and business patterns are continuously shifting, change is the only thing that's constant. Fact, valid. It is imperative that project team members understand that Scrum development processes are designed to embrace change according to the Agile Manifesto, right? I mean, the 12 principles point out that change is going to happen. We welcome change even late in the process. So organizations should try to maximize the benefits that arise from change and minimize the negative impact through diligent change management processes in accordance with the principles of Scrum. Okay, let's pause there for a second. Change management and Scrum in the same sentence really doesn't go down well for me. It doesn't go down like a spoonful of sugar. While Scrum does have positions and things in place regarding change management, it certainly doesn't dictate or drive how the change management system of record is put into place. It doesn't talk about things like the hidden factory. A lot of these principles come from Lean and they're not actually part of Scrum at all, but they're things that you need to do, especially in large complex projects, to keep the wheels on the bus. So let's continue. It says, for small projects with 6 team members to large projects or complex projects with hundreds of team members, Scrum can be applied effectively to ensure a positive response to change is a staple in a production process. Okay, let's see where they take it. A primary principle of Scrum is the acknowledgement that business stakeholders, customers, users, sponsors change their mind about what they want and need throughout a project. And it's difficult for business stakeholders to define all the requirements during an initiation of a project. Okay, I do agree it's difficult to define, but I also agree that you need to have some sort of balance. And I think that's what this whole thing's missing. I feel like if you want to be successful using Scrum, there are 4 phases that every single product or project goes through. And you've heard me talk about this before. There's initiation or ideation. That is where you come across an idea and you say, hey, I think I want to do this. I think this is a good idea. What do you think? And you measure or leverage how that idea is going to provide additional income, provide value, how it's going to solve a problem. But ideation and brainstorming is definitely part of this. It's part of customer centricity. It's part of just making sure you're living well and doing things right. The second phase is discovery. And that's why I paused to use that word before. Discovery is where we make sure that we have tenets and tools in place to actionably work with a minimal viable product, that we can leverage personas and mapping to try to get to a point where we have some type of MVP, whether it's journey mapping, story mapping, whether it's a paper prototype or an actual working model, a loose, lightweight working model. We want to make sure that we have systems and tools in place that leverage what we know about Scrum, but also leverage what we did in ideation before we go into build out. And build out or delivery is the third phase. Now, Scrum clearly sits in that third phase. It clearly sits in build out and delivery. So for someone to say that they're talking about change management and working through personas and talking to stakeholders, all of these things, while you will revisit them, if you do proper ideation and proper discovery, you have less of that to do in delivery, which is the most expensive phase. And then the fourth phase is release, for all of you who are wondering, and that's how you're going to get those products or services to your customers and how they are going to be supported. So, with that, Scrum projects welcome change by using short iterative sprints that incorporate customer feedback on each sprint's deliverable. Okay. This enables the customer to regularly interact with Scrum team members, view deliverables as they are ready, and change requirements if needed earlier in the process, even implementing the change in the very next sprint if necessary. Also, the portfolio or program management teams can respond to change requests pertaining to Scrum projects applicable at their level. Okay. Sorry, I had to laugh at this. I love how casually they just threw in, oh, and also the portfolio or program management. Okay. The portfolio or program management team live in ideation and discovery. We shouldn't have a whole bunch of downward motion from those groups once we get into delivery. By the time we get into delivery, our focus should be on the stakeholder or key stakeholder. Our focus should be on adaptation to change, adapting to change and figuring things out. But we need to make sure that we have our work organized in such a way. I think this is the key. You need to manage and organize the work in such a way that you're following Bill Wake's INVEST model, where everything's independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, because estimatable is not a word, sized appropriately and testable, so that the work can be easily consumed by the team, easily reviewed with clear acceptance criteria, and given to the stakeholders for review. And you should expect some feedback, but it shouldn't be this huge downward pressure like they're describing here. Scrum helps organizations become more flexible and open to change. However, it is necessary to understand that although the Scrum framework emphasizes flexibility, it is also important to maintain stability throughout the change process. Now, this is interesting. I love the choice of words here. It says, quote, it is necessary to understand that although Scrum framework emphasizes flexibility, that is true, it is also important to maintain stability throughout the change process. This is where the stable framework comes in. Scrum was never intended to be perfectly stable from end to end. Scrum was intended to be ever-changing until we figured out what we needed, and then boom, we're good. But if you want that stability, you're going to need to look for something that incorporates the flexibility of Scrum with some lean tenets, like not placing things in a hidden factory and limiting work in progress and organizing scope. And you need to couple that with a quality management system in order to deliver a system of value at every level. So I think that while this is a good starting point, we need to make sure that we understand where we're going with it. It's the same way that extreme rigidity is ineffective. Extreme flexibility could also be unproductive if you allow too much work to creep in. That's true. The key is to find the right balance, between flexibility and stability. Isn't that what I just said? Because stability is needed in order to get the work done. Therefore, Scrum uses iterative delivery and its other characteristics and principles to achieve this balance. Adaptation is a powerful skill in general, an essential component in the Scrum framework. When Scrum team members confront change, they do not stop the presses, they press on. What a closing. I love it. So I think that part of this is understanding how to press on, and understanding that press on doesn't mean haphazardly. Press on means with purpose and with design. And I think that part of what people miss in Agile is that initiation, ideation, and that discovery piece. And if you miss that and you spend all your time in delivery trying to adapt, that is when you're just spinning your wheels and not really getting anywhere. And that's the part that causes the organization and the people the most frustration. Well, that's going to do it. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, feel free to reach out to us. Learn more at AgileDad.com. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.